The next few weeks are huge for Auburn's 2026 class.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us. What else does Auburn need in the portal? We discussed that, as well as how they've rocked the portal so far in more ways than one, and national experts are agreeing as well. But first things first, Darrell, we'll start today's show off. I mean, the next few weeks are absolutely crucial as Auburn, Hugh Freeze, the rest of this staff are building out this 2026 class. Yes, they had Devin Carter, the latest addition, an explosive wide receiver. But they're building up to like this upcoming weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend when Auburn basketball hosts Tennessee. They are turning this into like a Big Cat-esque recruiting weekend, and it's only January. You've got to love the strategy here.
It's amazing how I know that as fans, we kind of get a little bit of fatigue. You know, you kind of reset. You take a breath. You're like, okay, the 2025 class is done. Let's focus on basketball. Let's focus on spring. Coaches do not have that luxury. And I feel like the previous staffs at Auburn, if you remember the junior days and some of these days that were around some big basketball games, a lot of people didn't. It was very, very, slim pickings and low attendance. Auburn gets it. This staff gets it. You don't exhale. There's no breaks. Yeah, you did a great job in 2025, but that's in your rearview mirror. It's time to go through 2026. It's really brutal in that pace, but they're doing such a good job. And what a great time to showcase the campus, the environment, the commitment to athletics, the student spirit, all that stuff. Listen, you cannot underestimate that if Auburn keeps rolling in basketball when Tennessee comes into town. That's going to be a big part of all this.
Yeah. And if you just imagine the electricity, and then Hugh Freeze is able to turn around and look at these kids and say, like, just wait till football. Wait till football. They want to be cheering for you. But it seems like every 30 minutes or so, somebody's reporting or announcing on their own Twitter that, hey, I'm going to be attending Auburn next weekend. And I guess it's called Junior Day, but it almost feels bigger than that because, these guys are rising seniors. I don't know. The labeling of it's interesting to me, but it's guys that Kyle and I talked about, like the top 10 players in the state. Pretty much all of them are going to be there, but C.D. Morgan, the wide receiver from Ben Russell, like Auburn's in a great spot for him. Derek Cooper, who's teammates with Denarius Gray, the wide receiver commit, but Derek Cooper is a very good 4-star running back from the state of Florida. Trenton Henderson, another Florida kid who's 6'4", 220 plus edge rusher. We've already talked about how Auburn's got a few irons in the fire when it comes to edge guys, including Hezekiah Harris, who's already committed. But you just look at this list, and it's a who's who. And we've talked to other guys who are now enrolled or whatever, but Auburn, when they have these big events like this, whether it's Big Cat, whether it's this Junior Day, whether it's, random recruiting weekends at certain points of the year, they've done such a good job of culturally, not just within Auburn, but within the span of like local kids being recruited by SEC teams throughout the Southeast, of like culturally, if you're not visiting Auburn during one of these big recruiting weekends, you feel like you're missing out as a recruit. And that seems to be what's happening next weekend.
They've made it a can't miss event. And I think that's very important. And in this day and age, you have to have all the bells and the whistles. You have to make it like a big production. And Auburn's done a really good job doing that. This is like not a lesser than, but more of a spinoff of Big Cat. And they've learned how to do that with Big Cat, how to roll out the red carpet. Interesting when you threw some of those names out. I did a little research and I couldn't find it, and it could just be because it didn't pop, but you may have it. The linebacker that's committed to Miami that Rock Bellatoni has jumped all over, is he scheduled to be here? I think his last name is Campbell, if you know that or not. But I think that's one that Auburn's very, very high on and wants very badly. It'd be nice to get him on campus too.
Yeah, I don't see his name, but that doesn't mean that he's certainly not, right? And I mean, at this rate, we're kind of talking about it from big picture. We'll zoom more in on some of these guys probably more next week, just because the list seems to be changing.
It'll grow.
Yeah. It'll grow as well. But I mean, just the overall impact of what they're able to do. And we've talked about this before. It's a great combination of guys who are trending, where like Auburn's probably the lean right now, guys who are committed, and then kind of new names that are popping up. And so I think when you kind of mix all of those guys together, we've seen it work so far under the Hugh Freeze era at Auburn. Why stop now?
I keep hearing, when Freeze got in here and got his first class under his belt, the absolute standard, people kept saying, well, just wait till the 2025 class. 24 is going to be good. He salvaged 23. Wait till 2025. Well, 2025 ended up being a top 10 class. Then I started hearing rumblings when these early 2026 kids started committing. Oh, if you thought 2025 was good, 2026 has a chance to be top 3 class. We'll see. This is where the groundwork of that it gets laid starting right now, and starting this junior weekend, and then Big Cat in July, behind it, or whenever that is, comes behind it. And then it just starts to gain steam. So this is where you're laying the groundwork over the next 2 weeks, where it starts the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just some big names. It looks like the highest ranked, I'm hesitant to even say this, but it looks like the highest ranked linebacker, just by a quick search, is Anthony Davis. Sounds like Auburn and Florida are leading for him, but 2026 linebacker there. So Zion Ely, he's a 5-star edge guy.
Oh man,
from Maryland. Just an explosive player. And Kyle reported this on the Barn. He feels like Auburn's a major threat there. And so just getting, especially guys like that who haven't really been around Auburn as much, just because they're on the other side of the country, getting those guys here and seeing the electricity that happens around Auburn basketball, and getting them around, these outspoken commits like Hezekiah Harris and Shadarius Tootle and, Devin Cardle. It's just can only help you. It can only
this is where people make fun of and joke on and try to de-emphasize the Auburn family, the Auburn type thing.
It's funny till you see it, Darrell.
When Bruce Pearl is such a recruiting vessel and loves to do it. It, absolutely is a willing participant to say, Hugh, you need my help in getting some of these guys. I'm going to do whatever you need me to do to show out, to roll out the red carpet, to bring Chick-fil-A, whatever you need from me, I am going to give you. And that's where coaches that buy in and support each other's programs help in a scenario like this.
No question. Because
think about this. I'm not trying to do revisionist history. I know we got to move on, but imagine in the 2000s, when even 10, 15 years ago, when Barbie was here and Auburn was a big player in college football and in the SEC, and they had these kind of recruiting weekends. I mean, you going to bring somebody into Beardy's Memorial and watch them watch Jeff Lebo's basketball team and get them to get excited? No, it matters. And Bruce Pearl is the king of that. He is the ambassador for Auburn University. I'm sorry, he is. He's the face right now.
No, give me a million Bruce Pearls, 100%. 100%. Both fortunately, unfortunately, there's only one, and he's ours.
Can't clone him. That's right. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. I'm glad he's here. No question about it. Auburn, though, rocked the transfer portal. And don't take our word for it. We'll tell you more in just a second right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Wayfair. Darrell, can you imagine buying furniture anywhere else? Wayfair.com. They've got it all. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC, and I always find decluttering and refreshing my space gets me back into the routine. I know you're working on things at home all the time.
Shelves, bookcases, that kind of stuff. Listen, if Kelly Clarkson's behind it, let's go. Let's go, Wayfair. Right?
That's right.
I can't. If Kelly Clarkson can't imagine, how am I supposed to imagine?
I'm there with you.
I actually bought. This is funny. People will say, Darrell, you a lie. You always make. We bought a sink from Wayfair.
Really?
Yeah, we had someone install it because I'm about as mechanically inclined as a phone book. But we bought one. Yeah, we bought a sink.
You've sat at my dining room table before. We got that from Wayfair.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, solid. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That is WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. I mean, Auburn, we've said it over and over and over again. Like, we love the job the staff did when it came to managing the portal. Andy Staples of On3. You and I both like Andy Staples. I think he's a good writer. Agree with him sometimes, but I definitely agree with him here. He put out his rankings, not necessarily when it came to portal rankings, but when it came to which teams address their needs the most in the portal, which is very, very important. He ranked Auburn number 1, and he's right. And I don't think we need to overthink this. When you look at even the naysayers, even the folks that said, oh, well, Hugh Freeze, like what he's doing, is it going to work long-term or whatever? You may be right. I don't know. I think it's going to work out, but there's a chance that you're right. But all of the doubters, they all say, well, Auburn needs a quarterback. Auburn needs to revamp their offensive line. Auburn needs to do, they need to bring in some veteran wide receivers to help these younger guys. And they did it. They didn't finish the defensive line, and I think they need more linebacker. We'll talk about what they need in a second. But as far as what they've done addressing portal needs, I don't know what else you really realistically could have asked for.
I love the angle that Andy Staples took, and I really like him a lot. Had the opportunity to interview him a lot of times. I think he's very well versed. I love the angle he took. Instead of looking at rankings, which just take into consideration how highly a rated player is. So, for instance, let's say if Auburn doesn't need a running back to be a 5-star running back or another 5-star corner because they're loaded in that position group, it's not beneficial for them to do it. It's more beneficial to take what you need. And if you address your needs in the portal, that's the goal. It's like the NFL draft. Do you draft by position of need, or do you take the highest rated player? It seems like the teams that built championship programs and pedigrees go into the draft assessing their needs.
Yeah. And this was something I talked about because Auburn and Ole Miss were going back and forth for several different reasons a year ago. And one of those was portal ranking, like who was going to be number 1. And everybody was calling Lane Kiffin the portal king and all that. And he brought in
DM king, but go ahead. Sliding into direct message kings. Go.
Yeah, there you go. But he like when you sign multiple quarterbacks, that boosts your ranking, right, but it's irrelevant. And I think Ashton Daniels as a backup quarterback is fine, but if you get points for whatever, and the goal is for that player to not play, I have a hard time seeing that contributing to your ranking.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you're just you're having them sit on the bench. So I agree with you. I like the approach that Andy Staples had when it came to ranking this, because that's really what matters. It's not how many talented guys you got; it's how do these talented guys help you finish out your roster.
Because it's immediate need. Recruiting, it's more important to have a highly rated recruiting class because you're looking for down the road. You're projecting. But immediate help and immediate need, it's about addressing immediate needs, not what you need 2 years from now. So recruiting classes give you that leeway, and it's nice to have 5 stars and ranked high recruiting classes because you don't know how they're going to pan out and you don't need them right now. Portal, you got to have them. You got to address it. You know what you need. So absolutely. I love that pecking order. I love the rating, and that Auburn is considered in the industry to be, according to On3 and to him, the highest, it has the number 1 ranking in addressing its needs.
Yeah. And even if you do roll out all the rankings, some of it's volume, but I mean, Auburn got one of the highest ranked quarterbacks in the portal, which there are questions still. I'm not going to act like there's not. But there's far fewer questions when you look at Auburn's offensive tackles that they brought in, especially with Xavier Chaplin, the left tackle from Virginia Tech. And then Eric Singleton. I mean, just electric as it gets. I mean, he was the most sought after pass catcher in the portal for a reason. And he's going to help Auburn on offense. You have to think a substantial amount. So, I mean, outside of that, there are a few questions. There are a few things that Auburn needs to do in the portal moving forward. and we're going to discuss exactly what those are. Darrell and I each have one to share. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Rocket Money. Darrell, we've talked about Rocket Money a ton. I've used Rocket Money. You use Rocket Money now. And it's just so handy. Anytime like a subscription goes through and it says, hey, you may not be using this. You may not be using this. And it's like most of the time when it tells you like, hey, check this out. Most of the time you're like, oh, yep, I totally forgot all about that.
I gave you an example of one I found over the weekend. I was getting dinged $27.99 a month for the New York Times. I don't take the New York Times. I haven't read, but it's to play games like Wordle and some other things. And I think I signed up for like $2.99, and then that's and then it gets you later.
Shoots up after a year or something.
It caught it. It caught it that I would have not figured. I mean, I wouldn't have paid attention. So it caught that the introductory rate was over, and it saved me some money, man.
Yeah, so you can cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. The Everydayers heard me talk about this a little bit with Ben Taylor yesterday, but I have a hard time believing that Auburn is done in their linebacker room. If you tell me nobody gets hurt, that's one thing. Like we all believe in DeMarcus Riddick. I think Robert Woodyard's solid if he's your second or third best linebacker on your team. There's a lot of upside. With some of the guys that they brought in, specifically, Xavier from LSU, Xavier Atkins. And then you've got the younger guys, DJ Barber, redshirt freshman, JJ Falk, Elijah Melendez, Bryce Diaz, all true freshmen. I like the talent, but we all know you need more than talent to be a really, really good linebacker. And so I think they need at least one more after the spring window.
It's going to be very telling how many they get. I think the writing will be on the wall. If Auburn does not get another linebacker after the spring window, which I agree with you, I think they get two. If they don't, I think they get two. If they don't get one at all, then they're going to ride or die with some of those freshmen you just said, especially Melendez, who, let's be honest, physically looks like the most ready to play right now in college.
Sure.
But I think they'll get two. I think that they'll, from a depth standpoint, you saw what happened with Tolan a couple years ago. Auburn brings him in. You see, and then you don't know, Zach, if anybody jumped ship in the spring portal. That's currently an Auburn linebacker that's on this staff, that's on this team. So, but they definitely need to add one. That's a must. I think I agree with you. A veteran
looking at who they lost Nori Mayusi, Banaje Gote, Eugene Asante, Austin Keys, Laquan Robinson. So they lose 5 guys. We're counting Laquan Robinson as a linebacker if you want. They added 4. Or they added Xavier Atkins and then the three freshmen. So if they want to keep the same amount as a year ago, scholarship wise, they'll add one more.
Right.
So that's assuming nobody leaves. I don't know who would leave in this, unless DJ Barber gets hopped by all the freshmen or something. I have a hard time seeing him leave. And then maybe Robert Woodyard, if he fell way down. I don't expect that to happen.
I don't either.
I don't think anybody in this room leaves. Because I think the path to playing time is so clear for all of these guys. If you do what you're supposed to do, you're going to play. There's other guys.
That's the key. Unless something unexpected pops up in the spring and someone gets slotted over somebody that was expected to get into 2 deep, and that doesn't happen, they get jumped, then you got to be careful. But I don't expect that to happen, and I don't expect any departures.
What's another position group you don't think Auburn's done?
Man, the defensive line, especially the interior defensive line. I know that Auburn has the Texas State kid. They're still pursuing. They thought they had Imba. I mean, all indications were Imba was committing on that particular Saturday, and that's a story for another day. But I think you need an interior defensive lineman. And obviously, it'd be nice to get one from Notre Dame or Ohio State, but I don't think that's going to happen. As far as that, them still having a few days after the national championship game ends. So you would look to the spring. And Auburn's got some good, has gotten some good ones in the spring before. So it's not one of those situations where a guy in the spring can't come in and help you. I know he was an edge rusher, but Echo Leota came in this. Well, he committed, but he ended up getting on campus in the spring.
Yeah,
I think there's a couple other guys that you have mentioned in the past that were defensive linemen that came in the spring. So, and that helped, that contributed. So Auburn look for that.
Yeah, and I just wonder, Auburn seems so much more set at edge. I wonder if they figure out a way to get more of those guys to play D-line or interior D-line, but they need help. I mean, they added Dallas Walker, and then your freshmen, Malik Autry, Jordan Crawford, Antonio Coleman, Darian Smith. So that's what? 5? They've added 5 guys, but they lost Keys, Gage Keys, Terrell Carter, Philip Bleedy, Isaiah Rakes, Jason Jones, TJ Lindsey, DJ Reeds. I mean, you lost 7 defensive linemen. 7 at a position where you play a lot of dudes. So there's no way they're done.
No,
and I think the way that they hosted so many people towards the end of the window, I think it kind of proves that.
Yeah, and this is a position where multiple guys, like last year, you saw 2, 3, 4 come in packs. As far as the transfer portal. And I think Auburn's going to need that. Like you said, you definitely rotate guys. And I get it. Some of the young guys stepped up and played, and maybe they're expecting that again. But I don't know. You got to have insurance policy. You got to have some guys that have played, big boy football, whether it's group of 5 or power 4.
Yeah, I mean, you feel good about Blockton. Bobby Jamison Travis, actually pretty decent.
Zacchaeus Walker still there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of had him at edge, though. So I wonder if they try to scoop him.
They got to move him inside, get some weight on him, and move him inside. Yeah, edge is a log jam. So
yeah. So I mean, we'll see, but yeah, certainly defensive line and linebacker. Auburn's got 2 or 3 scholarships depending on where you look, and they'll have guys leave. They'll have guys leave too, and I think you're going to see guys leave on the O line. Would be my guess.
Yeah, I agree, especially when you see some of the guys that got brought in and then some of these redshirt freshmen. A guy like DeAndre Carter's ready to play. And so, where he didn't play last year, I think he's ready to contribute in the 2 deep. Is Dylan ready to contribute in the 2 deep, right? I mean,
yeah. And we've talked about this before, and Hugh Freeze has been public with his number, but he likes 16 scholarship offensive linemen. They're at 18, and that's not counting Xavier Miller.
Okay, there's going to be some attrition there.
Yeah. So who is that?
Yeah, who knows? We'll see.
Because I like a lot of the guys that are backups that haven't really played yet. I like the upside of a lot of these dudes. I don't want them to leave. So will they go larger than they typically do and kind of sacrifice depth elsewhere for the long term of the program? It's probably worth it. But we'll see. We'll see if they do it.
It is. Absolutely. So I feel as good about the offensive line that I felt good about it last year. I feel better about it this year.
Yeah, and I feel good about it next year.
Exactly. Which
is important.
The depth pieces, the youth, the plug and play guys. I absolutely feel like it's not going to be a vast wasteland after graduation this year.
Yeah, no, there's 6 guys that I don't think are going to start this year that I think I feel confident in with them being SEC starters at some point. I'm higher on Seth Wilfred than most people.
I like him a lot.
Player.
And, I'm high on Dylan Senda, so I like him a lot.
Sure. Braden Joyner, I like him. Tyler Johnson, I like him. DeAndre Carter, Favor Edwin, Broderick Scholl, Cale Ellis, Ty Buster. I like all those guys.
Yeah.
What a great situation to be in.
Good problem to have.
No kidding. Just got to keep them. Darrell, how can people check out everything that you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410, Instagram, Darrell Dapp, Wednesdays and Fridays with you. Sunday night, me, you, and Kyle. Charlie's got a little top button podcast for the barn at 8:00 live. And then after every basketball game, we go live as well.
Yeah. If you missed the reaction to the game last night and you want to check that out, it's available on audio or on YouTube. Just check it out however you're consuming the show. It's already up. It's already there. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.